original work we've done there that really led to the African Urban Metabolism Network was developing a typology of urban resource consumption. So understanding of the vast range of cities in a typological way to be able to understand any city with very little data. So in one phase of the urban typology work, we arrived at 15 city types. And the cities that were most resource efficient are those that you find in developing regions. And they're most resource efficient. Those cities are the ones towards the upper left-hand side of the diagram. They're most resource efficient because they underserve their populations. They simply do not provide enough resources for a humane urban existence. And that's certainly not a model for the future. The cities in the middle of the diagram are interesting models for the future because they have a combination of vibrant, dynamic economies, but they are efficient in different ways. One example is one of the types is composed of Japanese cities alone. And Japanese cities, Japan itself is a highly industrialized country, but there's a certain frugality to the consumption of the population that leads to relatively low energy consumption. So the similarities that are revealed in the typology tell us a lot about the ways in which cities consume resources by way of their context, their not only spatial context, but their economic context. And we find in, for example, another type that's composed of cities in very different parts of the world. So in Norway and in northern Alaska and in the Middle East, and these are all cities that consume resources in very similar ways because they're part of very intense resource extraction economies and oil and gas economies. And those cities in particular are very like one another because they're part of that economic context. The second area of our work has been to develop suites of technologies that are appropriate for individual city types. So alternative urban technologies that are more relevant and effective for cities in hot and arid climates that happen to be port cities in developing regions. So understanding what kinds of technologies, groupings of technologies are more appropriate to that kind of city than a tropical city in Southeast Asia. The third area of our work, which has led to an original coupling of two different kinds of methodologies, is using mapping and cartography to describe, locate, delineate the acquisition and the distribution of resources, and linking that to the actual resource flow accounting that we represent in Sankey diagrams. These are essentially mass balance diagrams. What goes in then follows through either within the system or leaves the system. And coupling the actual spatial location with the intensity of the resource flow is the third area of our work. So Phoebe Dudek, the lead research scientist of the Urban Metabolism Group, has authored a new methodology that we call resource flow mapping. And this is a combination of the resource accounting represented in Sankey diagrams, linked to actual maps, the cartography, the actual location of resource acquisition and distribution and consumption in different cities around the world.